Hello there. It is December 25th, Christmas Day, 12:34 a.m. So it just started. Made myself a little midnight drink of caffeine in coffee, which has gotten me awake, but it hasn't really made me caffeinated type of speed, and that's compromised by the cannabis use, heavy cannabis use. So, what is the point of this video? Christmas morning, very early. First video of Carnivore Conversations, where I basically get honest, get real, try to work these conversational muscles and sort of ramble about a topic, thoughts relating to the carnivore diet, keto, nutrition, metabolism, biochemistry, things of that nature. And I think this is the perfect topic in order to start episode 1, which is, carnivore in the context of our modern society and cheating with easily accessible carbohydrates in chronologically appropriate time frames, such as the holidays and seasonal things. I'm on the carnivore diet, but I'm not very strict. So before I explain, let me tell you how I define and go through my carnivore diet. So basically, Monday through Friday, I'm pretty strict. So I'll only eat meat, dairy, coffee, lots of heavy cream. That's at least 95% of what I'll eat. I will top it with some hot sauce, low carbohydrate hot sauce. Maybe I'll add some Chobani natural creamer, which is basically just cream, milk, and sugar as the first few ingredients, and natural flavors. And that's the majority of my diet during the work week. And on the weekends, I will loosen it up and still stay mostly. I hate using the term animal-based because of my opinions on Paul Saladino, which I may get into in future videos, but let's just say I'll stick to animal-based products such as ice cream. And that's how I get my cheating carbohydrate intake in, where it's basically, dairy with added sugar and carbs added to it. I'm not even like keeping a keto mindset when I cheat. I don't focus on ketosis or maximizing the benefits of carnivore. I basically just think that meat is the healthiest macronutrient or nutrition source, and carbs are explicitly unhealthy, and the goal of a healthy metabolism is to maximize your animal protein intake and minimize your carbohydrate intake. I don't really focus on ketosis, lipolysis. I basically just let my natural biochemistry and metabolism maintain my homeostasis. But other than, recognizing that meat is the healthiest nutrition source, I'm not very strict. I like using plant phytochemical psychoactive extracts in order to enhance the carnivore lifestyle. And even on the carb point, I'm not strict depending on certain factors. So I'm strict during the work week if I have no outside influences. Like Monday through Friday, I gotta go to work. I want to feel my best, so I will stick to a 90 to 95% strict carnivore diet with dairy. But if there's a midweek friend hang, or on the weekends, I don't have anything going on, or if I'm going out drinking or things of that nature, I'm going to keep it healthy-ish, metabolically handleable. So within 100 to 150, maybe maximum 200 grams of carbs, maximum. But typically on a cheat day, when I'm having like animal-based carbohydrates, like I'll have like a pint or two of Haagen-Dazs ice cream. So that's like 100, 150 grams of carbs in that pint. And a lot of that carb load will be slowed down in absorption because it's combined with dairy, protein, and fat. So that slows down the absorption. That slows down that stimulates GLP-1, which everyone is going all the rage for nowadays. Gastric emptying. Like when you combine protein, fat, and carbohydrates all together in your stomach, that amplifies the effect of gastric emptying and GLP-1 release, because combining the three macronutrients, and carbs aren't really a macronutrient. Getting into glucose isn't really meant to be a macronutrient. That's getting into that later. But when you eat all three together, like, your body recognizes that this is a very nutrient dense meal. So it slows it down as much as possible to allow it to get into your bloodstream and be processed optimally. And amplifying GLP-1 is part of that. And that the point of that is that it really slows the rate of the carbohydrates, glucose, fructose, lactose from the ice cream, from really like spiking my blood sugar, insulin, things of that nature. I don't really have a blood glucose monitor or a ketone monitor. I don't really monitor these things, but this is my understanding of the biochemical mechanisms, metabolism, that of my particular carbohydrate carnivore cheat protocol. So what is the point? What is the point? There's really no point. This is like episode 1. Like I'm rambling. The point is that if you're on the carnivore diet, if you're coming from keto, if you're on the carnivore diet, if you're trying to eat healthily, follow a healthy diet nowadays, and you fell into the ketogenic, carnivore, low carbohydrate sphere, then you're going to want to take steps to appropriately navigate the nutritional impacts of all of the things that you choose to eat. So, and how they impact you health-wise. So every human is an individual, and every human has individual adaptations and genetic evolutions to different sources of the macronutrients. So like meat, fat, and carbohydrates. In our modern iteration of Homo sapiens sapiens, we have markedly increased availability of carbohydrates and protein in comparison with our ancestors, and things of like and even unique things like seed oils and synthetic chemicals and such compared to our ancestors even like 100 years ago, going from 100 years ago to like 2 million years ago when we started a fire-based carnivorous diet. And so navigating like how the nutritional and health impacts of all of the keeping track of all of these things, like the glycating and oxidative damaging process of like carbs, the inflammation, the autoimmune disease, like the plant toxins, the phytochemicals, the impacts on insulin versus like glucagon, your stress hormones, like, keeping track of all of these things metabolically is why like carnivore is so easy to stick to if you actually know what it's about, which is that meat is healthy and it doesn't contain poison. And carbohydrates are unhealthy implicitly because glucose is a glycating molecule. When you ingest it, it glycates your blood when you exogenously consume it. And it glycates you glucose glycates you endogenously. Every single person has an A1C score above 0. If you're using glucose to live, you're being glycated because you have excess glucose in your blood in order to provide a constant stream of glucose, because you need glucose every single second in order to live, because glucose is a requirement for oxidative phosphorylation, let's say, to provide beta oxidation, to provide prerequisites for the TCA Krebs citric acid tricarboxylic acid cycle to provide ATP for your cells. It's glucose. You need glucose to live, basically. Like, people are trying to low carb it and people are trying to zero carb it, but like, and people are demonizing glucose and sugar and things, which is fine nutritionally, like in things that you should be eating, like in the context of a carnivore, ketogenic, low carb, low plant diet. But demonizing glucose, we run on fat and ketones. No, you run on glucose. Like every organism runs on glucose. In the animal kingdom runs on glucose. Like, glucose is what is the baseline thing that organisms run on. And fat and ketones are kind of like the supplemental gasoline to that oxidation process, but glucose provides the prerequisites in order to keep resupplying the actual cycle. And that's why gluconeogenesis provides all of the glucose that you need. You don't need exogenous carbohydrates. That's why a carnivore diet is the most metabolically appropriate diet. And cheating with carbs is explicitly unhealthier. Like, a carnivore diet where you only eat meat and fat with zero exogenous glucose that glycates your cells is the healthiest diet. That's why when you're in these Christmas seasons and moving forward, I guess the point of this conversation is that, stick with carnivore. Recognize that carnivore is animal protein, animal fat is what is keeping you healthy and provide the optimal source of nutrition. And in these upcoming seasons, or even in your day-to-day lifestyle, whether you're keto or, not very strict carnivore, like, diet is a spectrum. And there's a spectrum of what you eat as far as like animal products versus plant products versus like, and things in between, like mushrooms and insects, and you know but in the spectrum of like carnivore, herbivore, omnivore, standard American diet, vegetarian, recognize that you should probably just generally think of it as maximize your animal animal meat intake, animal protein, animal fats. Minimize your carb intake, whether it's plants, whether you want to think of it as plants, whether you want to think of it as sugar, whether you want to think of it as like carbs. Minimize carbs, minimize plants, maximize animal products. And that's why I personally, am not very strict with weekend implementation of like ice cream. I'm maximizing my animal products. Yes, it has like pretty high sugar, like 100 grams, 150 grams, and then sometimes I'll have like 2 pints, so that's like 300 grams. Yes, that's a lot. Yes, that's a lot of carbohydrates on these weekend excursions, and I'm not making excuses for that. My point is that I recognize that metabolically, what that 300 grams of carbohydrates is it's lactose, it's glucose, and it's some fructose. So the glucose, it'll go into glycogen. The lactose, it'll break down into glucose and galactose. Galactose metabolically just turns into glucose. So lactose, when you're thinking about lactose, it's basically just a slower absorbing glucose. So it's kind of like casein versus whey. Like whey is rapidly absorbed, casein is like a slower absorbed. So like glucose is rapidly absorbed, and like lactose has to be broken down into glucose and galactose, and that's slower absorbed because galactose needs to be enzymatically like processed, and then like the enzymatic cleaving of that. And that's if you don't even have the lactase enzymes in order to actually break down the lactose in the ice cream, then the way you're getting that lactose into glucose slash galactose is through microbial fermentation, your microbiome. And that's not really going to do all. Well, I do. I don't defecate throughout the weekend if I keep it moderate. So I would say that, yeah, like if I'm not defecating, that means that I'm absorbing all of the things that I eat. So I guess I have a robust microbiome wherein it is processing all of that lactose, and I am getting all of that sugar load. And then the fructose will convert into some glucose, but mainly to like overload my liver and convert into fat, which if you're on that's not healthy because it drains ATP, and that draining of ATP turns into AMP, and that AMP degrades further into IMP, and that degrades further into uric acid, urate, which will turn into urate deposits in your sites of inflammation, which is caused by the carbs, which is the cause of gout, which I have a minor, I have minor deposits in certain joints, let's say. And it doesn't really affect my day-to-day life, but it does. Relating to the top of the conversation, I'm not really grateful for these urate deposits in certain joints, but it definitely makes me more intimately aware of the metabolic impact that food has on my body. So after I develop these deposits, after I eat some sugar, like I feel it there. But because I'm eating a very healthy carnivore diet and I'm strict with it during the week, like these gout inflammatory noticings aren't very acute. They aren't very painful. Like, they don't inhibit me. So yeah, I keep doing what I do. And it's an interesting journey learning about metabolism and nutrition and diet and health and the impacts that eating things has on our life. And so, yeah, okay, so this right here is a perfect example. So here's what this is. It's Christmas Day. My job basically ordered breakfast sandwiches for us. And I ordered a pastrami, egg, and cheese. I'm in the New York City metro area, so bacon, egg, and cheese, sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich, or on a roll or a bagel. That's like the standard American diet, regional offering out here. And so I ordered a pastrami, egg, and cheese if my job was offering it to buy it for the workers. And so I didn't eat it at work, but I took it home and I decked it up. This is not the original sandwich. It was just like, a couple of slices of pastrami, one egg, maybe one slice of cheese. I fried up like extra bacon, extra sausage, added another slice of Colby Jack, and some hot sauce to this. And I decked it up with extra meat. Because the point of this conversation is that if you're going to cheat with carbs, it always annoys me when people are like, oh, I went crazy with carbs and I had cake and I had... And I'm over here like, if I'm going to cheat with carbs, it's going to be in the context. I'm making this absolutely diabolical meat stuffed sandwich. So what's in there's also, this is half of it, but in the other half I put cream cheese. I wanted one half with cream cheese, one without. So in this sandwich, it's what is this cheat meal? Oh, you're cheating on the carnivore diet. What is this? What is this cheat? What is this cheat? It's a bagel. Sure. Yes, it's bread. It's bread. Terrible. It's got phytates, which is an anti-nutrient. It's got carbs. It's starch. It's fiber. Unhealthy. Unhealthy bagel. But what exactly is this? I took this unhealthy carby bagel and I fried it in bacon grease. I fried it in bacon grease and butter. Where did that bacon grease and butter come from? It came from frying up an extra pasture-raised egg. It came from frying up 4 strips of bacon. It came from frying up 2 Italian sausages, which are like no sugar. So really, what is this cheat? What is this cheat meal? I shouldn't put it in quotation marks. This is a cheat meal, but this is like what, 50 grams of carbs in a bagel, and it's a pound of meat in eggs. It's got pastrami, it's got sausage, it's got bacon, it's got 2 types of cheese, three types of cheese. Like this is my carnivore cheat, right? A fucking meat bagel sandwich. And I consider this healthy. This is my standard American diet. 50 grams of a bagel, and that's what I'm having for Christmas. My job gave me a free fucking bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, pastrami, egg, and cheese sandwich. My job gave it to me for free. I'm going to take the bagel and I'm going to stuff it with meat because I'm strict with carnivore and I love eating meat, and meat is the healthiest thing you can eat. So I'm going to maximize my protein from animal meat. I'm going to stick to my carnivore tendencies, and I'm going to sandwich it in between 2 bagels. And that's what I'm having to eat as a post-workout recovery meal. Because I did go to the gym today, and that's part of the context. Like, let me put this down. That's enough holding a sandwich. And that's part of the context too. Like, I'm not worried about that sandwich because I went to the gym and I don't think that carbs helps with recovery. I actually think carbs inhibit recovery because of their influence on insulin and the gluconeogenic process and autophagy and mTOR and things of that nature. But really, it's more about like I'm not worried about that bagel in the context of all the other meat that's actually recovering my body because I just came from I ate the other half of that sandwich after the gym. And so after the gym, deadlifting, multiple muscle groups are torn. They're signaling AMPK. The glycogen stores. Even though I'm on a carnivore diet, the cells are more permeable to glucose, let's say. So post-workout meal, 50 grams in a bagel. I ate half of it, so like 25 grams. It just got sucked up into my muscles, and it's slowly being digested in my stomach. It's not even like fully. It's slowly getting in there, and yeah, my point is that on this carnivore conversation in this Christmas season, talking about carbs in the context of like, when you cheat during these holiday seasons or, in your day-to-day life, whenever you get this sugar into your body, the point is that it would be better for your mental health and more accurate in knowing exactly how these cheats are going to affect you metabolically. Like, sugar is dangerous. Sugar is unhealthy. Carbs are unhealthy. Plants are unhealthy. Animal meat, carnivore diet is the way to go. Animal meat is the healthiest option. But it's not just like wantonly demonizing carbohydrates. It's about properly educating yourself on what exactly it's going to do, how you can maybe take steps to mitigate this. I'm not advocating that you follow what I'm doing. I'm not advocating that you cheat on carnivore. I'm not saying that you should cheat on carnivore. Like, stick to strict carnivore as much as you can. But if you're going to cheat on carbs, know the consequences, know what's actually going on in your body, and how you individually will react to this. And so it's Christmas Day. My stomach is bubbling from that sandwich. Like, on an actual carnivore meal, like, this would be clean. I'd be ready to like just go about life. But now the bread is just bubbling, and we all know it's gonna come out the other end later. So, but it's Christmas. I'm gonna eat some more later when I head to my family's house, and yeah, I'm not really too beat up about it. After the holiday season is over, I'm gonna go back to my lifestyle. Like, I'm really not like, I got fucking. I'm really not pressed about the upcoming carb season because, not carb season, like, it's basically just going to be today. I'm going to try to get back on track on the 26th, maybe the 27th, and then, New Year's, and then after that, 2026, start off the new year, get back on track, carnivore, start the new year mostly healthy, healthier than most people that are sticking to a standard American diet, standard Western diet, ketogenic, even ketogenic, like, healthy vegetarian eating. If I'm gonna have a couple of days of holiday carb eating, and then I'm gonna go back to eating 95% animal meat and dairy. Like, really, like, I'm really not very stressed about the carbs I'm gonna be eating for these next couple of days. And that's Carnivore Conversations episode 1. I hope you enjoyed. If you're still listening, I hope I got those almonds activated in some way. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and hope to see you and talk to you later.